what I'm going to do now is open the floor and take a break from being in the limelight myself. Okay, one.
So I have a pretty simple question actually. You've talked very extensively about economic issues, so I'm going to skip those questions because you already answered most of them. My primary question is about your position, and by extension, since you're here representing the Indian National Congress, on the Uniform Civil Code. And before you answer, I just want to point out that most arguments against a Uniform Civil Code in India rely on the fact that it's a diverse country, people have different religions, different beliefs. But if you look at all successful democracies, and I'm sure you'd agree that most of Western Europe and the United States up till now have been successful democracies, have stressed the need for a uniform civil code and the need to have some basic laws which govern everyone, which quite frankly India does not have at this point.
I leave that idea to the courts of our country. So the courts will decide, and I have faith in the courts of our country.
At the back. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. My name is Andy. I'm a graduate student here at the Woodrow Wilson School. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. You said earlier that people are going to figure out something to do regardless of how much automation happens. You also said that India, especially as a big country, has to find blue-collar jobs for its people. It occurs to me that the first casualty of automation is blue-collar jobs. So what, in your mind, is an example of a blue-collar job in an automated environment?
I think the nature, what we today call a blue-collar job, is going to change, right? But the question is, who is going to have those jobs, and which country is going to have access to those jobs? So currently, you have a factory system, say in China, with 20,000-30,000 people working in them. That's something that is not replicable by India. But I don't think that's necessarily what the world will look like 15 years from today. So the question is, can a country like India access some of those jobs? And what do we need to do to access those jobs? What are the type of things we need to change in our system, in our education system, in our banking system, to get at some of those jobs? But I think what we call a blue-collar job today is not going to be the same tomorrow.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. I just have two questions for you. The first, you quoted Gandhiji, and I really believe what he said, that the soul of the country of India lies in its villages. And you spoke about the transformation from the agrarian to the service sector. Is the government looking at development in the agriculture sector and not necessarily a movement? Because I believe when 60% of the country is employed in the agricultural sector, we should look at automating that and looking at development within the sector than pushing the people for intersectoral growth. My second question is, when you spoke about tribals, and having worked in tribal areas, a lot of contentious issues in tribal areas happened during 2006, 2009, where even in Kalinganagar, 13 tribals lost their lives in a firing issue. Taking a step back, now that you feel so strongly about tribal rights in the country, what do you feel can be done in that direction?
What was your first question? Gandhiji. When you talk about, the first thing to realize is that Gandhiji was an evolving person, right? And he was a very flexible mind. When Gandhiji said village India, he actually meant a decentralized system. He didn't mean that India should remain where it was in 1947. The heart of a village is that it is decentralized. So Mahatma Gandhi's vision of India was a decentralized vision of India. I don't think he meant, which a lot of people say, but I don't think he meant that India should remain in its
agricultural development.
Yeah, I'll come to that. I don't think he meant that India should remain in village form. But I think what he was saying was that the village form of government, the decentralized form of government, is a powerful form of government. And actually, if you look at how technology is moving, a lot of what he said is actually coming true. India simply cannot forget about agriculture. And India simply will not be able to create the jobs it needs without modernizing agriculture, without setting up agricultural food chains, without supporting agriculture. So again, between us and the BJP, there is a difference in opinion on agriculture. But I personally feel that agriculture has to be supported, and it's a strategic opportunity for India if it is supported properly. What was your second question about the tribal?
About your plans of how do you look
I
at
think
development?
when we were in government, we were protecting the space of the tribals. Tribal bill protecting their land, giving them rights to the forest. So our idea was to create a space for them where they are protected. And you can create a space for them where they are protected physically, and you can also create it in the political system. So the way we would act is to ensure that tribals in their space are protected and not encroached upon, and that they have a certain set of rights that makes them feel protected.
Hi, my name is Anita Gupta. I'm actually a graduate
Sorry,
student
can I
here.
just, sorry, is it okay if I just finish that? The question of land acquisition, sorry, you sat down, but the question of land acquisition is central. You will sit down, no problem. I can see that. I'll stand up. The question of land acquisition is also central. How you acquire land in tribal areas, what are the rules for acquisition, and Nyamgiri became a central case here. So we constructed a land acquisition bill that would protect them. We made sure that if someone wants to acquire tribal land, they have to take permission from local governments. So those type of protections we had put in place, but I think that's the direction. No, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my name is Anita Gupta. I'm actually a graduate student here at Princeton University at the Woodrow Wilson School. My question is actually about twofold. Here in the United States, we're faced with a rapidly unfolding healthcare system that we're all witnessing as of today.
Unfolding means
Meaning it's falling apart.
collapsing.
Collapsing, and a constant debate here in the United States.
Why is that happening?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but we can talk about that later. But I'm curious because you had mentioned in India that there's a lot of young youth, 30,000 that are, looking for jobs. And we know that in India there's a lot of individuals that are suffering too with public health related issues. In particular, something that's interesting to me is the drug related issues. Here in the United States, there's many people that are overdosing on opioids, and I know in India that issue is very, very serious. Morphine, similar drugs like that. I'm wondering what the initiatives are that are in place in India. What initiatives are being done for those young youths that are jobless, that don't have jobs, that might be going to drugs? Are there initiatives, and what is being done for healthcare in India? What is the vision?
Well, I mean, we're not in government in India, by the way. So I mean,
I know.
what is being done? Don't ask me. But we are in government in Punjab. Where are you from, Punjab?
North
No.
UP, Uttar
North
Pradesh,
UP.
Agra.
But we are in government in Punjab, and drugs is a serious problem in Punjab, and we are working on combating that problem in Punjab, setting up rehabilitation clinics, trying to move industry back into Punjab. It had moved out, introducing sports into the system. So we are working on drugs in Punjab, but I won't be able to tell you what the government of India is doing on that front. I'm not involved in running the government of India right now.
Hello, Mr. Gandhi. Thank you for coming. So my question is this: your role in the country is now as a member of the opposition to critique the government, find flaws in their policies, and so on. But surely there must be something that you admire that the Modi government has done, and that you probably wish that your government did when it had power for 10 years. If there's one such thing, what would it be?
Again, I think the Make in India idea is a good idea. And I think if that idea is implemented well, it's a powerful idea. I would think about it slightly differently. But as a concept, saying that we need to make in India, I think that's a good concept. That's a good direction. How I would implement it would be slightly different. GST, something where we agree with the government. We in fact helped the government pass GST. Again, on the fine tuning, slight differences. We would have preferred a uniform GST. They chose 5 levels. We would have preferred a slow implementation. They chose a faster implementation. So, but I would say on GST broadly, we agree with their direction. I think so. There are spaces where we would agree with them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, if you look at the economic policy, broadly, between us and the BJP, there's agreement. There's not much difference between our economic policy and theirs, other than the fact that we tend to do things like Narega and do things like right to food. On the liberalization front, on the big business front, we're very similar. We have a central difference with the BJP, which is that we feel that India needs to carry everybody. And we feel that it's dangerous if India doesn't carry everybody. That's the central difference. But there is a reasonable amount of agreement on economic policy.
Actually, I'd like to see the faculty better represented. I see in the front row Professor Bernard Hickel and our visiting distinguished Professor Sunil Kilani. One of them would like to say something.
Oh, you didn't see that.
So, Bernard, would you like to?
Well, I mean, first, thank you very much for coming here. I would like you to, think perhaps comparatively with the United States. I mean, some would argue that given the nature of new technologies, given that facts are becoming questionable in terms of how you present them, the rise of the popular charismatic leader, the politics of exclusion versus that of inclusion, all of that is extremely disruptive to old patterns of governance. And in what way, some might even argue that, what's happening in India or what's happening in the United States is a vernacularization of politics. A new type of person is coming and having greater say than before. Old elites, Anglo-speaking elites, are being displaced. That you represent, in a sense, that displacement. Can you sort of tell us something about actually the failure of politically to this new force, and how does it compare to what you see happening in the United States?
I think the central reason why Mr. Modi arose, and to an extent why Mr. Trump came, is the question of jobs in India and in the United States. There's a large part of our populations that simply do not have jobs and cannot see a future. And so they are feeling pain. And they have supported these type of leaders. The problem is that the record on jobs of these leaders, I don't know Trump, so I won't go there, but certainly our Prime Minister is not good enough. So those same people who got angry with us because we couldn't deliver on those 30,000 jobs are going to get angry with Mr. Modi. The central question is resolving that problem. My main issue with Mr. Modi is that he diverts that issue. And he says that he points the finger somewhere else instead of saying, listen, we have a problem. We need to transform ourselves to compete with the Chinese. And we need to get 30,000 out of 30,000 people, we need to get 10, 15, 20,000 people jobs. So that is the central issue. There's anger building up in India right now. We can sense it. Right? So to me, the challenge is how to solve that job problem in a democratic environment. That's the challenge. And frankly, the Congress party was unable to do it. That's why Mr. Modi came. But Mr. Modi is unable to do it. And it is a deeper problem, so we have to first accept it as a problem. And then we have to unite and try to work at solving it. Right now, nobody is even accepting it as a problem. The discussion is about 9% growth, 8% growth, 7% growth. The discussion is not about how many of your millions of people that are moving you've given a job to. That's not the discussion. That needs to be the discussion.
First a round of applause, then he gets to say hello, then